Hi guys, super excited and also really using this as an opportunity to move through. So today I woke up to some big therapy influencers talking about the importance of communication in sex. Now, neither of these influencers are actually sex therapists or did much couples work, but clearly talking about sex right now is trending. So I thought, hey, hop on this trend. I actually do sex research and do talk about sex, and I am trained in this, so may as well talk about it. Why the fuck is it so hard to talk about sex? Why? Well, I don't know about what hole you might be living in, but um, Iran, Ukraine, the fucking club in Colorado Springs, stupid legislation, doctors being scared of actually giving life-saving procedures so that because of these anti-abortion laws, those are the realities that actually make it hard to talk about anything, let alone sex. The most and now I'm actually talking about the physicality of sex. You just mentioned the word sex, and people are like, whoa, what's going on? We don't talk about sex. I mean, again, I remember I would get in trouble when I worked in Chicago for actually using the word sex. And I remember telling my boss, well, that doesn't really make sense. I literally talk about sex every day with my clients and my research and with my students. So how am I going to get around that? And then on TikTok, you got to put S3GG, all of this bullshit because there's actual so much censorship around talking about sex. Yet porn and gaming are the main drivers of the internet. And sex is how we got here. So take this moment right now and ask yourself, why is it personally for you so incredibly hard to talk about sex? Okay? Because the reality is I've been talking about sex, literally fucks. Literally, I said the word fuck, didn't really know what it meant. I knew that it was something I maybe shouldn't be saying, but I knew that it was that there was a power behind it. Fuck, and literally there's a box in our living room with me, what I drew with a marker with my middle finger up saying, fuck you, OG, or fuck you, Roger, to my brother. Literally was somewhere between 5 and 7. I've had a mouth like a sailor, and I'm a sailor my whole fucking life. So, but I knew that sex existed. I remember hiding underneath the table, watching Purple Rain, hearing my parents have sex. Yet, we didn't actually talk about it a lot in my family. And raised a Catholic, I thought I was going to wait till marriage. Thank fucking God I didn't. There are so many realistic, oppressive, based on the misogyny, patriarchy, capitalism, all these fucking real systems that are meant to control and suppress, that it's not as if that actually doesn't enter your bedroom. So many times in this beautiful land of TikTok and IG therapy, you'll see a lot of posts about communication is key. Just talk about it. Just muscle up and talk about it. I'm so fucking sick. And I want to start this new series about if it were that fucking easy, everyone would fucking do it. But the reality is across every single behavior, most people don't change. Even though you're seeing more influencers out there, do you actually think the stress is actually reduced? No. Has rape gone down? No, divorce is on the rise. In Western countries, sex is actually down. Generations are having less of it. Like, honestly. And Kobe, you said you're fucked, so help. Great. I'm definitely want to help and support as many people to find their voice. And absolutely, when I talk about sex, that is just my fucking beeline to actually tapping into your energy so that you actually pause, sink into it, and actually look at what it is your body wants by asking the questions. What do I need? What do I want? That actually begins this practice. And from there, getting curious. When we invite, tap into, explore, and expand our sexual energy, this is where we grow from. And yes, absolutely, this is where we have multiple orgasms, but we also, this is the juice. Our sexuality is where we came from, and it is our life force, and yet is the hardest thing for us to tap into. Because so many people, just like this, Kobe, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I don't know who the fuck you are, but you got to go away. Uh, Sorry, I don't know what you're wanting. Ask me a question. Totally. But don't just send me fucking eggplants. I don't even know what the fuck that is. And this is what the majority of bullshit when people talk about sex is about. People talk about techniques and how to fucking find the fucking clitoris. Jesus fucking Christ. What the fuck? This is so what we need to start shifting. You know, I made a post the other day about is manifesting BS or real? And the reality is it's a mixture of both. You don't just make your way, believe your way into having this amazing life and having multiple orgasms. Fuck no. Again, if it were that fucking easy, everyone would have it. But 99.999% of coaches out there are literally fucking just have a good Instagram story, and that's what they're selling. That's just the fucking reality. This is actually a lot of the tension I have in being in this, being like launching my program is actually, and that's actually my motivation for it though, is that we actually need some qualified professionals helping people out there. So that to balance out the majority of bullshit misinformation that actually makes people think, I can just have whatever I want. And you don't attract like all this bullshit. Weren't born into the race, your orientation, and the shitty life circumstances. That wasn't a fucking choice. So much of when we talk about relationships, the majority of this research, including the Gottmans, including PACT, the majority of this shit has been done by white men amongst predominantly white, like upper middle class heterosexuals. That's the majority of the research. NIH hasn't been funding sex research for the last decades. Stuff is not actually looking through things from a sociocultural framework. They're not. So again, what we need to do is actually appreciate the lens and the injustice that actually oppresses our own voice and actually acknowledge that so that we can move through. But in my frustration with all of this, oh, just do this, just communicate, just talk about this. Most people are actually pretty decent communicators. Most people, when they're with their best friends, can actually talk really about how they feel. Why is that? Oh, that's right. Because they feel safe and comfortable. Like, again, that's actually why. So much of the practice is getting there on your own. Teaching your body safety, bringing yourself to safety. That's the heart of actually being able to communicate. Like, again, that's the goal here, okay? That's the goal. So, again, like, I think it's really, really important for us to acknowledge the reality and injustices that are in our environment, in our world, when we're talking about why don't we just communicate? Why don't we do all of these things? Why don't you just change? It isn't about motivation and it isn't about laziness. it is about self-worth. And if you have a whole fucking world reminding you that you aren't worthy because of how you look or what you were born into, it makes sense why your body would start to believe it. And instead of being militant and just telling people to fucking buckle the fuck up, like that's not helping things. That's actually adding to the problem. That's actually literally pathologizing people who can't. Okay? So, one, call me out if I'm doing this, because I don't fucking want to. I know I'm really direct, but so much of what I've learned in the last few years is how fucking hard it is to actually change. And part of that change on my journey was absolutely tapping into my sexual energy. And literally like keeping, acknowledging and breaking, sorry, I'm trying to block somebody who's been very, very annoying on in the chat. So hopefully he's gone. Anyways, I mean, this is what I get when I talk about sex. I get people who send me, I mean, the amount of fucking dick pics, and it's so sad. It's so sad. Like, what I don't talk about in my journey is how I've, men are like, "Ooh, done with your yellow fever," when people are on dates with me. I didn't actually, it was in Sydney when that happened to me, when I didn't even fucking know what the fuck yellow fever was. The number of men I have actually been in relationships with who absolutely have Asian fetishes, but, they're not racist. They just date Asians who are super, super tiny and can't speak a lick of English, but they fuck really hard. But no, there's not sexual racism. They're the nice white guys. These are the fucking realities that when people think they're nice, we don't need nice. I absolutely don't have much respect for nice. I absolutely have respect for kindness. Kindness is absolutely genuine. Kindness is when other people aren't watching, when you actually don't get a benefit from it. So I wanted to just hop on because I get so frustrated when I see so much shit out there that just tells people communication is key. Communication is key. And the reality is that when our bodies don't feel safe, we're not fucking communicating, let alone communicating honestly and assertively and in alignment with our needs, wants, and desires. Our body knows first. Our body has to feel safe. And from that safe place, we can encode new information, learn new things. And then we can actually experience it till deeper understanding. And then we can apply it in a relationship. So that's how we change. We have to learn from a regulated place where our body feels safe, and then we change in relationships. This is how therapy works. This is how any relationships work. Change requires your nervous system to actually apply this change with another one. That's how it learned this fear. Something in your body got punished. And this is also how it can change. So yes, communication is key. And I fucking wish that more people talked in and out of the bedroom, not just about sex, but really about their needs, wants, and desires. Because that is how we live aligned. That is success. That is the sex, what fosters healthy, collaborative, expansive, enduring relationships of all sorts, intimate, family, all sorts. Humans are social mammals. We want to be connected. Our fears of rejection and abandonment are our existential human fears. Everyone experiences this if they are human. So take this moment. You may have noticed how my emotions went like this. This is a bit how I move through my own when I get like, when I experience reactions that are more arousing, or I get hyper aroused when I see things that I'm like, God, that's bullshit. I'm actually now really trying to use my social media to actually move through that and actually talk with you guys about this. Because the more we talk about it, the more it gets normalizes, the more we all just share what it is, where we're at. That actually does change things. You saw the protesters in Iran. You're starting to see more and more people fucking stand up to these fucking idiots, racist, back-ass word Christians. And if I'm offending you, oh well. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. This, I'm such a believer of, if you don't offend, then who are you listening to? I think it's pretty clear what my fucking political views are. And I'm actually get really, really sad when I meet particularly women of color who do vote or do stand by these oppressive mentalities. We are all part of this problem. I am trying to move through and contribute my energy in an effective, supportive way. And I appreciate that that may not resonate with everyone. That's okay. That's okay. I no longer, that's not, I'm detached from that outcome. I know that now this is my break in between clients. Now I get to go and talk to clients about their journeys. And I'm so honored that I get to actually do that. And that together in our relationships, this is actually how we do move through, how individually we actually support one another to acknowledge the fucking injustices and move through, not because of our privilege, fucking despite our lack of it. Do not get it twisted. I'm very aware that I have privilege in being educated, in looking how I look, even though the same way I look is also what can oppress me. I am aware of how much in one generation, my family doing everything that they did absolutely gave me, and sacrifices they gave absolutely gave me the opportunities I have. I'm not fucking ignorant to that bullshit. Fuck, it's real. And it's acknowledging our privilege while also acknowledging the injustices. And this is the thing. Like, moving through isn't moving through with blinders. It's not, a lot of people say, just act like a white guy. Act like a white Midwestern guy. And there's a lot of truth to that, like as far as how much particularly a woman of color may feel more attached or connected to her voice and more confident in it. But if it were that fucking easy, and so many women literally didn't get beaten down and killed for fucking doing that, don't you think everyone would fucking do it? So I'm just going to wrap it up and say communication is key. It isn't about actually learning just I statements. It is absolutely about connecting with your body, regulating it over and over and over. And in that practice, then beginning to move through fear, anger, frustration, moving through to increase your tolerance for distress, strengthen your resilience. And from that is where we expand. And yes, absolutely, that's where multiple orgasms can come and play. But man, That's actually living a conscious life. That's ecstasy. Oh, let me know how this lands. Let me know what resonates. And thanks for joining. Cheers. Mm-mm-mm.